Welcome back to the show. It's me, Hugh, and this is a great day because we got all these surprise co-hosts. We got Deb Hall joining us here just because she was here anyway, and I think Deb is a perfect co-host for this interview with Delanova star Livingston of Uversa, right?
Well,
Delanova.
Nirvana, actually.
Nirvana?
Nirvana is a satellite of Uversa. You know, like Uversa is like our star.
Right.
Nirvana is like the planet Earth around Uversa.
So we wouldn't tell some aliens that we're from Sol. We would tell them we're from Earth of Sol, right?
Sure, if you had a chance. if they could possibly be interested. You know.
Yeah. So, okay, so today we're going to call you, first of all, you're the author of The Revelatorium, which is the new revelation.
Well, that's, you could put it that way. I'm not trying to promote it as the new revelation, because it's basically tied into the fact that over the next 2,000 years to the age of Aquarius, galactic laws being installed into the consciousness of man, but that's involving all of the greater cosmic secrets of creation. You know, the illumination. It's called the Waters of Truth. You know, through Age of Aquarius, and it's stuff that's absolutely unfamiliar to the third dimension consciousness.
So this is new information that you're bringing in.
So the Revelatorium was put out in front. I'll give a quick example of how that kind of works. But the Revelatorium is put out in front to give you sort of like a handbook of what's, you know, the ideas and the concepts you're going to need to understand in advance to understand 500 years from now what's coming through. Kind of thing.
Right.
Now, and the example I was going to give, I gave this in one of the earlier interviews, but you know, at the time of Moses, or before the time of Moses, the Ark of the Covenant wasn't a box. It was a Ark in consciousness between God and the Israelis.
Yeah.
Because every time you have an agreement with somebody, you form an Ark in consciousness with them. All right. Mm-hmm. So the Ark of the Covenant was an agreement that they would act as crucible for the, you know, the advent of Christ 2,000 years ago.
Right.
That culture would be the environment in which he incarnated, which was very debased at the time. So they were given the 10 Commandments in advance through Moses to get them ready. So when Christ did incarnate, the Israelis, or you know, in Jerusalem in that area, were much higher spiritually evolved or aware,
because of the law that
because
Moses
of the 10 Commandments that had come through first to get them ready, clean them up. To clean them up.
Well, clean up the whole world, arguably.
Well, that's what now that was supposed to have happened 2,000 years ago, but it got cut off in advance. That's another story. But the point I was trying to make here is that the Revelatorium, like the 10 Commandments, is to get you ready for what's going to be coming through your consciousness. Am I under arrest by any chance?
You might be.
You think
They're coming to get you.
The cabal is coming after
me? No. You're okay, I think, for this afternoon, hopefully.
Anyway, the Revelatorium was given in advance, like in an analogy, the 10 Commandments were given in advance, so that your consciousness would, you know, mankind's consciousness would be up to speed when the heavy-duty stuff starts coming through.
When does that heavy-duty stuff start coming?
Well, I would say I'm giving it probably about 500 years from now. I'm not sure. Really? I mean, it's coming through now.
It seems so.
It's coming through now.
Like
but don't forget, you know, at the end of Aquarius, 2,000 years from now, mankind will be back in the fifth dimension. There won't be any more third dimension.
Right.
So that's a lot of getting up to speed to get up to speed about.
And,
you know.
Okay.
No, you're going to have to be fully fifth dimensional, you know, awareness and conscious. There are people now on the planet that are starting to get glimpses of fifth dimensionality and so on. It's starting to happen a lot.
Yeah.
You know, there was huge it went during the last 40 years through the last of the Mayan calendar prophecies.
But let me ask you, if you're in fifth dimension, are you in a physical body?
You're in a Morontia body. It looks the same.
Like etheric?
Well, no, it's way beyond etheric. It's called Morontia.
Morontia.
It's not subject to mass and inertia and so on.
Okay.
So Earth, all planets have a fifth dimension. The sun has a fifth dimension. There's an evolution there. Earth has a small population in the fifth dimension, administrative, because the body of population called the Adamics, who are the Asians, went into the third dimension by default 3.5 million years ago, still there, but it's now time they're coming back up. It's the end of the road. You know, it's like the party's over, folks. You know, really.
For
literally.
who? For everybody?
Well, the party, yeah, for everybody. Period. Absolutely, flat across the board. Earth itself, over the next 250,000 years, is being evolved back up to be ready to teleport. I mean, literally by the consciousness of those on the planet, to the womb of Orion to become a photostar. You know, it's like the child becoming parent. The planets become stars.
Is that going to be
have
good for
their
the
own.
economy?
Well, he said though, but Delanova, you said earlier to me in another conversation that the time as we know it,
Well, time.
like we think in linear time, right?
See, I'll get to the
So
tree
that-
of life later.
Yeah, that's
but
what we want.
Yeah,
That's our
Yeah.
topic.
but
today.
you asked a question before. You know, are there timelines being changed and so on? Well, I made a quick answer, but the actual answer to the question is, yeah, all the time. But timelines aren't what you think. Okay.
Yeah.
There is a timeline on Earth. Any of the planets, like the 250, wrong. The 2,500 planets that have a third-dimensional evolution like Earth does, out of the 1,000 galaxies here, have the potential of a timeline. The potential of a timeline comes into actuality when there's a higher consciousness incarnated as well.
Okay.
Because timelines in and of themselves don't exist. Now, Earth is not in a timeline.
Yeah.
You and I and Debbie and Chris and so on are not in a timeline.
All right.
But our consciousness, the mass consciousness of mankind at the present time, has a virtual perception of time, not an actual one. That's the timeline. It's a consciousness effect. It's a cause and effect in consciousness. Because in the third dimension, your consciousness is aware of and subject to the limited speed of light and the other factors. And in the fifth dimension and higher, like you're already halfway there through the fourth dimension, there is no time. You know, everything is...
Like in fifth dimension, it's like spherical.
Yeah, it's called the ever-present
like
now. It's called the ever-present now. All of creation, all of reality is ever-present now. You're in the moment. You're doing what you have to do. You're in the moment. All right, and this doesn't mean that you're asleep and nothing but little time. You know, you're aware of everything, but you're in the moment. Mm-hmm. But there is no passage of time. That's only in our perceptions, in consciousness. That's the timeline. Now,
in this illusion that we live.
well, in this mentalized illusion we live in, yeah,
Okay.
it's a major component of it, of the mentalized illusion. But here's the thing too. So you have anywhere from 10,000 to 10 million people in your mental frequency. Everybody has a connection to everybody else on their mental frequencies,
Right.
and you can take your perception, the time perception that you have within your mental frequency group or aligned close to it and so on, could be slightly different than yours.
Okay.
And timeline engineers are doing this all the time. I told you that Earth is a beta test planet. Mm-hmm. What works here will go to the other 200. God, I can't say it right. The other 2,500 planets that have to be cleared up, like this one is being cleared up now in the aftermath of the rebellion. So what's being tried here as a beta test and works will be used there. So
That's the Luciferic rebellion.
the Luciferian. It's called, the official term is the Luciferian self-will rebellion of the cosmic overplus,
Right.
which is a mouthful.
Wow.
But we're starting to get a handle on it.
We're starting to get a handle on. Anyway, just to finish up, that they will tweak a timeline. You know, because it's in your memory. The timeline is, you know, sort of your memory. You know, they'll tweak the timeline to create a slightly different reaction down the road. All right, and you've already experienced that a bit.
Yeah.
I've
So
experienced
is it a
bit.
remembering? Like a remembering?
Yeah, well, you remember the past, but you talk to somebody else, but that's not the way it went. You know, they have a completely different.
Like the Berenstein Bears.
Yeah, I was just gonna.
Yeah, you're the one.
Sex
that,
in the city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Sex and the City now.
I know.
Yeah. There you
so
go.
You know
see.
all about that.
Yeah.
I mean, I ran it for the first time
I know.
a couple of years ago. I wrote something about an event that had happened in our family and so on when we were kids back in Winnipeg in 52 or 53.
Yeah.
And my younger brother said, but that's not the way it happened at all. He's come out with a totally different, the same event, you know, the same farmhouse,
Different.
the same car, but it was totally different the way it went. Yeah, and I said,
So,
now is my memory that bad or is his memory that bad?
so
Well,
what does
no.
that mean?
Well, it means that the timeline is mutable. Don't forget, this is perceptions and consciousness, and the consciousness itself is immutable, and the memories in it can be altered. See, the timelines, the Earth is not, when they tweak your timeline perception, your group, call it that, Earth itself doesn't change. Whatever is going on there, it's always the same. It's your recollections.
Okay.
It's your recollections.
Okay.
And they'll cause a slight change in your recollection pattern in order to precipitate a small change in your behavior later. And if it works to the positive, out it goes. If it doesn't, well, let's try something else. I mean, this is beta test. We're in a beta test place, which is fine with me. You know.
Well. Okay.
All right. So now.
So let's get down to the tree of life.
Well, the tree of life. See, most people know or have come across the term tree of life. Bible scholars make a big thing about the tree of life. Vision it as a plant on a hillside somewhere radiating. You know, but in the Bible, I'm not even sure where, because I'm not a Bible scholar. You know, I know parts of it and so on, but I don't know. Ezekiel said in 2:43:2:1, you know, in the midst of the garden stands the tree of life, bearing of its fruit, 12 manner of fruit, 12 times a month.
What's that?
Well, that's the thing. The garden is actually Earth's fifth dimension. Earth's fifth dimension is cosmically known as the Garden of Eden. When man got evicted from the Garden of Eden, they got tossed out of they didn't get tossed out of the third dimension, or the fifth dimension, that's wrong. They got drawn out of the third dimension into the third.
And who did
I'm
that?
having trouble with my words today.
Yeah,
they got drawn out of the fifth dimension, Garden of Eden, into the third dimension.
And was it the serpent? Was that
well,
Lucifer?
the serpent, again, you see, now we're getting into the serpent. It has to do with the energies of Scorpio are for rejuvenation and regeneration.
Yeah.
Okay, and they have a connection up the spine into the pituitary gland and the pineal gland and so on, which is involved with the Holy Grail, and it's called the Fountain of Youth. I talked about that before.
That's the part of the book that I was reading, Delanova.
There you go. See.
Yeah.
So just to clarify for your audience, if your seminal fluids, men and women alike, will rise up the spine, go through into the pituitary gland, and it stimulates a resonance between your pituitary and your pineal gland, which is called the Holy Grail. And the Holy Grail will takes in fifth dimensional substance radiations, which is called manna from heaven.
So is the fluoride interfere with all that?
No, the forehead doesn't interfere with it.
Fluoride.
Oh, fluoride does.
Water.
Yeah, fluoride's not cool. You know. Now there's two kinds of fluoride. Don't forget, the fluoride they're putting in the water is a sulfide type chemical that they make when they're byproduct. Too loud? Oh, sorry. It's a byproduct of aluminum. It's very, very bad. It's very, very bad shit.
Yeah.
All right. But there's also natural calcium fluoride. Like if you get spring water, it'll have fluoride in it, but that's calcium fluoride. It's a different stuff completely. So that's okay.
Not from the stuff we're drinking.
No, it's the fluoride that they're putting in the water, and if you want to get really suspicious and look at the cabal for the depth of deviousness, that could be in the water not to protect your teeth, but to shut off your pineal gland.
Right.
So exactly. So here we are. You're talking about, because the last time you were here, you're talking about the Luciferian rebellion, and that Lucifer rebelled, and now he's been brought back on side again.
Well, he's on his way back on side.
But we're still getting the fluoride in the water. We're still getting the
Well, don't forget. I mean, the whole planetary condition is pretty abysmal. Now, Earth is like there's 2,500 planets that are still in a third dimensional regress state. Earth is 10% up. We're not the worst. We're at the top of the 10%, which is bad enough. There's a planet in Antares. Huh?
There's hope for us.
Well, as a matter of fact, it's a lot more than hope. The work is being done. It's all going on behind the scenes in the fourth dimension and the fifth. If you read that chapter 39, now it's not in the book yet. The next issue of the book will have chapter 39. But on the website, chapter 39, which I've pointed out to a few people, is called the Heavenly Host.
Yeah.
And the Heavenly Host is a vast fleet of radionic fifth dimensional ships outside the orbit of Pluto. And they're teleporting into Earth all the time, everywhere, all over the planet. That website page or chapter will show what you look for, how you can tell there's a ship there. And there's photos there from Ottawa, from Brantford, from Kampala, offshore of Uganda.
Right.
Now, the reason why the photographs are from those areas is because that's where people that know what's going on are taking the pictures. They're all over the planet. There just doesn't happen to be anybody elsewhere right now. I expect to someday to see pictures coming in, I hope, you know.
Yeah.
But I do know that I have a friend in, you know, through the internet in Kampala. He said, "Oh, wait a sec, I'm seeing these all." And he started taking the pictures, so I've got some of them up there now. Beautiful pictures. So, anyway, what I'm trying to get at is that Earth isn't being saved. Earth has a destiny, and the destiny is going to be met, like it or not. Period. So
Right.
it's man is now have the opportunity to pee or get off the pot. That's really what it comes down to.
So let me ask you, you know, I mean, you know, it's hard to stick on the one topic with this.
And this is good. Your mind jumps around so fast, but it's a clean jump, you know. So you
Well,
know.
I mean, because we were talking with Deb earlier, right? You know, lots of chaos going on.
Yeah.
Lots of false flags going down.
Well, that whole-
and warmongering seeming to be happening. We can't trust our leaders. We can't trust the media.
See, that all goes. I was talking to you about the Black Masters of Atlantis earlier, you know, and they see again. Now we're way off the topic again of the Tree of Life. See.
We'll bring it back.
But 2.5 billion years ago, there was a confinement planet between Mars and Jupiter called Maldek. Most people know about Maldek.
This one that got blown up is now the asteroid belt.
That's the one, yeah. And the people from Maldek
Very good.
were brought into Atlantis 10,000 years ago because Atlantis was a very, very high point of energies in preparation for now, which is the big energy. We're now in the big energy. This is not going to be paralleled again for a long, long, long time, and probably quite a long distance away
So
from here.
do
But-
people have a choice, Dylan?
well, yeah, of course they do. You always have free will. You have the choice. Now,
Right.
the people, and it's really quite simple. At the end of Aquarius, you're facing Capricorn. The principle of Capricorn is gate of life, gate of death. If you know a Capricorn and they're in a really good mood, everybody's in a good mood. If you know a Capricorn that's not in a good mood, you'll find that everybody's
so
down
true.
around them.
Yeah.
Capricorn does that. Capricorn is the gate of life, gate of death. In its higher principle, it reflects in the lower principle. So, 2,000 years from now, coming out of Aquarius, where the whole evolution or escalation in consciousness back up to fifth dimensionality is going to be taking place, at the end of Aquarius, facing Capricorn, you're either going to be there or you're not. If you're there, you reincarnate into the fifth dimension and work with Earth in its whole next phase, which is going to be very short term, you know, compared to how long things have been. But if not, then you incarnate again into one of the 200 or 2,500 planets that are still third dimensionally regressed, and you'll have to go through it again and again and again and again. Sometimes it could be 750,000 years that before you even have the same kind of opportunity you have now for the energies to be enough. Right. At the end of all of those planets, if you've gone through and you've gone through and you've gone through, you're an idiot, you know, you haven't got the picture, you haven't, you know, at the end of it all, if you haven't accepted responsibility, proven you can't. You know, your soul atom frequencies have regressed so far that they can't be redeemed. You're sent back to the 16th dimension of absolute, it's called the absolute lake of intelligence and energy, where soul atoms are birthed. They come down through the Holy Trinity in the 15th dimension, and given all their attributions and their personality factors and all of that, you go back to the 16th dimensional absolute lake. Absolute fire is of the lake of intelligence and energy, what it is, and your whole outer structure, you know, history, Akashic records, all are burned off. You're re-expressed as a brand new, furbished soul atom starting from scratch again. Now, 5 of the Black Masters, 6 altogether of the Black Masters from Atlantis have gone back because they could not be redeemed. Even now, it's just never going to happen. The rest of the 500 Black Masters have incarnated.
So they learned something.
Well, they've learned something, yeah, but they're also pains in the ass. Some of them have done very good works. Yeah, I told you before, Edgar Cayce was one of the Black Masters, and the thing about the Black Masters that they were
Edgar Cayce was a Black.
And the thing that the Black Masters were working, the self-will rebellion of the cosmic overplus. These were people that were catering to their outer ego. Building up the outer ego instead of working as a Christ being in responsibility to the creation for the creators. So they had taken the loop and reversed it down into the outer ego. All right,
so they were just serving themselves.
That's the whole thing. It was a self-serving universe that Lucifer tried to set up to be free of all of that. Now that was a fall of pride because he didn't start out to do that.
Really?
Okay, we can get into that. Maybe we'll go with the Tree of Life another day because we're off in an interesting direction here. So let me just finish this thought, then we'll go to that thought.
Okay.
So the Black Masters, who were the most regressed of all of those guys, like the millions and millions and millions that are still around that got that way, were so self-serving that you couldn't get any lower in disdain to others. I mean, these are really contemptuous. The movies and some of them do a pretty good job of showing like some of these great bad guys, just how much they don't think about you. Anyway, they Edgar Cayce.
Get back to because I don't understand.
Well, Edgar Cayce was incarnated, and because he was concretized into a self-oriented, self-enhancing state of mind, consciousness, he was given a gift of prophecy, sleeping vision and so on, to see what he would do with it. If he was still trying to be,
But he did great things with it.
He did great things with it, and he never even once said, "I'm doing this, God did it." He 100% passed, so he's free of his entire karmic past as a Black Master.
He was the one.
Tough job, but he did.
He was the one who also he prophesied that the help for the planet right now, the chaos that we're in right now, is going to come out of Russia from Putin and
Putin was one of Christ's guys.
See, he says Putin's a good guy.
I say it too. I agree.
Putin was asking towards the end of the night.
I say the same thing.
If he would take responsibility.
Putin,
yeah, and he said he would, and he's doing it.
And he is. He's helping. But most people, because we've again been conditioned.
Well,
right?
He kicked the oligarchs out. The first thing he did. He's been fighting off the Antichrist tooth and nail.
So what's going to happen to the U.S.? Because the
U.S. is now at the turning point because see, if you look at chapter 39 in the Revelatorium on the website, if you don't have the book, well, you can if you have the book. It's not in there yet. So 39 in www.revelatorium.com, it explains the heavenly host and the presence of Christ Michael, who man knew as Jesus of Nazareth 2,000 years ago. He's back with his whole interdimensional fleet.
Where is he?
Well, he's in the fourth dimension sometimes, but he's communicating with his people. I know 2 or 3 people now that have actually stood face to face with him, and it's him. I can give you a quick example.
Yeah.
And this happened to me. Nobody goes through big, long-winded explanations in the higher dimensions. It's very efficient, very matter of fact. The job is done. So I had been doing something, and I decided on my own to. This is the night when I'm dreaming.
Yeah.
I went out to check something out way over there. Then all of a sudden, in a panic, I had to get back to where I was. So I fought my way all the way through. You fight and I got back, and I'm in a room like this. There's a bunch of chairs, people sitting there, 2 or 3 people that I knew sitting beside me, and up at the front where there would be a table and somebody like you is talking, Christ Michael is sitting there. Then he looks at me and says, "Do that again, you stay there."
Do what again?
Go out.
Where he was.
Where I was. Break the chain of things that were going on my own to check something out that had nothing to do with what was supposedly going on. Do that again, you stay there. And the guy beside me said, "That's pretty serious." Just to make sure that I didn't pick up on it. But that's how that kind of stuff is going on interdimensionally. I'm sure it's going on a lot different, more positive basis too. But I'm just telling you that the queue-ups are going on. You know, the queue-ups are going on. I'm awfully sure there's a lot of people that have actually talked with Christ Michael and didn't quite know that that's who they were talking with. You know, pretty sure with a
And
certain.
Christ Michael is different than Christ Jesus Christ.
No, yeah,
Is it one of the,
Jesus. Well,
Jesus also known as
well,
San,
sure. But Christ Michael did a bestow. Christ Michael is the creator, son, daughter of the local universe. The local universe comprises 1,000 galaxies, and creator, son, daughters, paradisical creator, son, daughters, are the ones who plan and blueprint what a local universe will do. They have it approved by the Trinity, and then they implement it and put it into practice. And it's their consciousness, the whole, you know, through my live stream, you know, they're the ones that put it together and keep it together and keep it going and doing what it's supposed to. All right?
Okay.
We're in a super universe. The outer creation is comprised of 7 huge super universes that are like bubbles, like petals of a flower around the inner. The super universes are themselves sectored down into local universes of 1,000 galaxies each. Okay, and then inside the local universes, the galaxies are sectored down into what are called local solar sectors of 1,000 solar systems. And then there's solar systems. So that's how the hierarchy works. So Christ Michael is the creator, son, daughter of this local universe. Now, whenever an evolution, ascending evolution is on a planet that has gone through Christ's teachings, incarnation after incarnation, all through the 5th dimension, eventually they're at the point where they're ready to have the final step and then go up into the 7th dimension where they've learned about Christ, because the ascendancy doesn't start with a full Christ frequency. This is why they're called ascendants. They ascend in that. And once they've finished the 5th dimensional level of learning, then they go into the 7th dimension and put it into practice. They start to learn how to do Christ stuff. See? So at that step, just when they're ready to go, then a paradisical teacher son or magisterial son sometimes will incarnate into their midst and teach Christ and exemplify what Christ is, for them to see what Christ's consciousness is, which is their future. That's what it's for, is to show them. And they also bestow a frequency out into the population and so on to become aware of awareness, to be able to accept the idea of the Christ frequencies at a higher level. And then they're ready to go up into the 7th. So 2,000 years ago, the Adamic root race is ready for that step.
Which are the Asians?
The Asians, yeah. All of the Asian variations are the original root race Adamics.
So they were ready for the Christ
They're ready, yeah. They're ready for the bestowal
2,000
years ago.
Yeah.
Now, on one planet in a local universe out of the trillions of planets, where a bestowal occurs, or might occur, the creator son daughter does the bestowal themselves, because for their own experience and evolution as well. So this planet was the one that Christ Michael did his bestowal in. So there was a bestowal made for the Adamics, but it was done by Christ Michael. The only planet in this whole local universe that would even happen to. But because the Adamics were in the 3rd dimension at the time, the incarnation took place in the 3rd dimension. So Jesus of Nazareth was the male half of Christ Michael in that incarnation, and Mary Magdalene was the female half. They were the soulmate pair.
But how come they didn't incarnate in China?
Because I told you at the beginning of this talk that the Israelis had agreed they would be the crucible for the upcoming advent of Christ. So they took place in Jerusalem. Because the frequency had to be.
Is that why they're called the chosen ones?
No, the chosen ones, this is what I was going to be talking about. If we had got into the tree of life, it was exactly what I was going to to be talking about.
Okay, let's get to the tree of life.
All right, let's get.
Let's sum it up in 30 seconds.
Well, it'll be a little longer than 30 seconds, but let's go. So, in the midst of the garden stands the tree of life, bearing 12 manner of fruit, bearing of his fruit 12 times a month. And also earlier it says the servants served the kings in the matter of the courses that came in and went out month after month for all the months of the year. What they're talking about is what astrology calls the zodiac, the 12 signs of the zodiac. Actually, that's a Babylonian take that was put on to astrophysics. No, and when I say astrophysics, I'm not talking about partial differential equations and stuff like that. astrophysics is the energy principles that feed a planet and its evolution. And they're coming from the 12 constellations. You know, they talk about the 12 constellations. People think that's folklore and myth and so on. They're actually resonance chambers, and there's a frequency coming in from those.
Yeah.
Earth, the sun itself participates in resonance chambers for other solar systems. So nobody in creation has nothing to do. Everybody's doing something. See? The frequencies that are coming in from the 12 constellations, there are the 12, call them signs of the zodiac, because, you know, astrophysical signs. They're the ones that we know of as Aries, Pisces. They are each. How do I get into this without sounding way off the left fielder? Basically, the 12 frequencies that we know as the 12 signs of the zodiac are the same frequencies that are experienced by every planet everywhere in creation. Now, they vary per planet, but it's the same basic frequency, all right? Pisces is going to be Pisces here, Pisces there, Pisces, and it'll be modified because of the different frequencies at that place. But there's only the 12. In all, the creation is 900 trillion light years across, so we're talking about a lot of frequencies, a lot of planets, all right? There's only the 12 basic astrophysical signs.
Archetypes.
Yeah, archetypes is good. Archetypes is a good word, actually. So there's only the 12 basic archetypes, and they're called families. There's only the 12 families in all of creation. There's 12 that are in an inducting mode and 12 in a discharges mode. So there's actually the 24 frequencies. That's it. All right? That's the tree of life. Okay? Those 12 frequencies are...
It's around the zodiac?
Well, Babylonians created the zodiac stuff, so we're talking about astrophysics, but the idea is basically the same. Yeah,
okay.
behind astrology, the principles are all good.
Is that like sacred geometry? Does that?
Well, sacred geometry, no, sacred geometry point, but one of these lectures I'm going to do one of these days will be on the intelligent design of creation. That's why I was pointing out to the screen back here that we can do that on. This is great. But the intelligent design of creation is the backbone or the archetype of all of the different sacred geometries. It's also the backbone archetype of all of the different mathematical fractals that are going on, which is a very interesting subject right now. Mathematics are just starting to turn on. They're finding fractals everywhere. The branches of a tree in a forest are fractal. They didn't know that until recently. They've done the math. It's a fractal. The way that a thin tree and a thick tree distributes in a forest is fractal. Everything's fractal. You know, the way the ridges on a mountain can be created by fractals. Because the intelligent design of creation was used to set up the whole third dimension outer evolution on the planet a billion years ago, and that's fractal. So they're just starting to find that out now.
Wow.
Okay, Delanova. Okay, we don't have a lot of time left. Isn't that sad?
We do this every time.
I know we do, because we could go on 25/8 talking about this stuff. But let me ask you a quick question, because...
Sure. Well, anyway, the tree of life is the 12 astrophysics frequencies.
All right.
But that's the start. There's a whole chapter, and I've just given you the first paragraph.
Interesting.
And what we should, and of course, people need to go to the revelatorium.com,
Sure.
order the book, read these chapters.
Well, order the book too.
Read chapter 39 online, but get the book and
Where can you
figure
get the
this
book?
stuff
Amazon.
out.
Amazon.com.
Yes, yeah. It's called the Revelatorium of Alpha and Omega.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, if anybody wants to know what's going on,
Yeah, we want to know what's going on.
well, the last page of Revelations, you know,
In the Bible,
God,
you mean?
yeah, in the Bible, God showed me this, God said this, an angel spoke, then right out of nowhere it says, I am Alpha and Omega, beginning and never ending. Who is Alpha and Omega? Well, they're the creators, the mother and the father, period. The Revelatorium of Alpha and Omega. It's 300 and some odd pages, 60, 70 pages of what's going on.
What's going to happen? Okay, just to bring it down, before we wrap it up here, Delano, we
Right.
had a guy on this week. He's talking about the biggest environmental problem is actually that the oxygen content of the air is falling because of all these internal combustion engines all over the planet. And he's talking about we're losing nature. He lives in the country near Ottawa, and he says in the summer now, the cacophony of noise at night is not there anymore. We're losing the birds and the bees.
Yeah, I've seen that happen before. The birds, you don't.
What's
hear
going to
them.
happen?
Well, there's going to. Don't forget, consciousness, higher consciousness can change all that in one thought. I mean, the pollution from Fukushima and so on, I know there's
agree with
already
that.
been a few times where
I
that's
agree
been
with that,
cleaned. You
yeah.
know, just one thought, boom, a huge pile of radiation gone.
But collective thought.
Well, no. Well, a collective thought, but a higher dimensional thought. You
Yeah.
know, like a fifth dimensional thought.
Yeah.
You
What
know.
can we
But
do
they
to-
can't do it all because man has caused it. Man has to be the man has to be in front of the cleanup of it,
Yeah.
or they're going to be put on another planet and have to do it there.
Okay.
They'll be put in the same kind of situation.
So here we are, right?
So
Peop-
it is taking place. It's not going to happen tomorrow. You're not going to wake up and all the birds and the bees are back. All right. But 25. Well, again, there's a bit of an uncertainty here. Around about 2039, 40, there's a potential for a fairly large asteroid hit. Now,
we can deflect that now.
Well,
We have the
yes and no.
technology.
It depends on man's state of consciousness. If they keep going, see, there's been 2 times already where man could have been a good portion of mankind could have been removed from the planet,
Yeah.
but the acceptance of the higher frequency consciousness has been so good that it was prevented, or stayed off. The first was 1994. The other was 2003.
All right. So
Okay.
people who are watching this right now,
So what I'm trying to get you is, it's not that there's a ray of hope. It's all light with a little bit of remnant discord in the background, which
Okay.
you're living right in the middle of, and it looks to you like it's all of everything.
So what should people who are watching this right now, what
Well,
should they do this afternoon?
We'll start asking themselves, ask yourself, what can I do for Christ, not what can Christ do for me? Everybody in every pew in every church, at every level of every religion says, oh, please do something for me. Nobody stands up and, what can I do for you? Ask yourself, what can I do for Christ? And you've already started. You're a good example. All of a sudden, here's a lady that, and now she's going around and with a program of meeting people in the penitentiaries that are carrying light and have got there because they haven't been able to handle it right, or people around them wouldn't let them express it, and so on. And she's going around as a mission to try and get them out of their despair. That's tremendous. But she answered the call.
Right.
What can I do for Christ?
Answer the call.
Answer the call. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
No, that means delivering food banks, to the needy. I mean, it can be anything.
Yeah.
But the people that are working in game reserves and so on, and fighting for the environment, and so on, they're doing their thing.
Yeah.
What can you do? Well, there's something you can do. Just ask. What can I do for Christ? Or what can I do for you?
All right.
That's it. I
Okay.
can't tell you any more than that.
All right. Well, what a great way to end the show today.
Yep.
And to get ready for the big event, whatever that is. And
You're not talking about the Christmas party, are you?
so thank you, Delanova, for
No
doing
problem.
this today. And
Again, a huge pleasure.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Can I make I have time for one quick little
Sure.
thing. I mean, this is called a schmooze, a shameless schmooze. Okay.
Okay.
A lot of interviews in this kind of a situation want to beat you up. They want to prove you're a fraud. They want to debunk you. They want to, Mr. Riley here does not do that. He wants to hear your story.
Yeah.
And he lets you tell your story. If he doesn't like your story, well, then you don't come back. But he does not interfere with what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
And he's a perfect example of what this should be doing. You're the archetype interviewer. You know what I'm saying? I think so, and I want to express that. So
Thanks, Delanova.
yeah, there you go.
Thank you.
All right.
I agree.
All right.
We'll take that. We'll put that in the.
Put that on the front of the book.
The promo reel. That's really nice. Thank you.
Well, that's right. Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah.
All right. So
Okay.
thanks for doing this, and Deb, thanks for doing this
Thank
too.
you. My pleasure.
All
Yeah.
right. So I guess that's it for
Absolutely.
the show for today. We're going to be back tomorrow with probably the biggest show of the year. And what I mean by that is we're going to have so many guests.
Yeah.
It's the last show of the year. Everybody's got to
Ah.
have their say before we break for the holiday season. So anyways, come
Awesome.
on back. Stay here today. We're going to have fun right here live on the air. So that's it. Thanks, everybody. See you next time, thatchannel.com.
Thank you.